Alright, let's step into the world of one of the most visionary and misunderstood figures in English literature, William Blake. Blake was born in London in 1757, the son of a city hosier. His parents noticed early on that he was different. When other children played, young Blake saw visions. At the age of 4, he claimed to see the face of God at his window, and at 9, he saw a tree filled with angels. His parents didn't force him into strict schooling. Instead, he learned to read and write at home, and by 10, he knew he wanted to be an artist. His father apprenticed him to an engraver at 14, and Blake spent hours sketching tombs at Westminster Abbey. Those Gothic arches and carvings would later shape his entire artistic style. That detail, by the way, has been asked in exam. By 12, Blake was already writing poetry. His first collection, Poetical Sketches, was published in 1783, and that title, too, has come up in exams. It didn't make him famous, but it marked the beginning of his lifelong fusion of art and verse. Blake married Catherine Boucher in 1782. She couldn't read or write, but he taught her both. Together, they became an inseparable creative team. Catherine helped him print and color his illuminated books, a printing method that Blake claimed to have learned from the spirit of his late brother Robert. His next masterpieces were the Songs of Innocence, 1789, and Songs of Experience, 1794. Both have been asked in exam. These collections are small in size but huge in meaning. Songs of Innocence captures the world through a child's pure, trusting eyes. Songs of Experience shows that same world through the lens of corruption and loss. Blake illustrated these poems himself, blending image and text in vibrant, hand-painted designs, a unique art form that's still unmatched. But Blake wasn't just a poet or artist, he was a prophet in his own way. He believed that imagination, not reason, was the divine force within humans. He rejected the cold rationalism of the 18th century and joined circles of radicals like Thomas Paine and Mary Wollstonecraft, both names that have been asked in exam. His political and spiritual independence made him both admired and feared. Some of Blake's most ambitious works are his prophetic books, strange, symbolic epics like The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, which satirizes the church and state, the Book of Urizen, which attacks theological tyranny, and America, a prophecy which celebrates revolution. All these works have appeared in exam questions. They're challenging, but they reveal Blake's grand vision, the eternal struggle between imagination and oppression. In 1800, Blake moved to Felpham, supported by the poet William Haley. There, he studied Greek, Latin, Hebrew, and Italian and claimed to receive direct spiritual revelations. Out of those years came his vast illuminated epics, Milton and Jerusalem, where he imagined a world redeemed by the creative spirit. He wasn't widely understood though. Some people admired his art, others called his paintings hideous. Yet, writers like Coleridge, Wordsworth, and Charles Lamb recognized his genius. Coleridge even called him a man of genius. Blake lived in poverty most of his life, surviving mainly through engraving commissions. In his later years, he found comfort in a small circle of young admirers who called themselves the Ancients. In 1818, he met John Linnell, who not only supported him financially but also commissioned his final project, a series of illustrations for Dante's Divine Comedy. He worked on them right up until his death in 1827. When Blake died, he was poor but peaceful, still painting and singing hymns to Catherine. He was buried in London, the same city where he had seen angels as a child. Today, Blake is remembered as a man far ahead of his time, a poet, painter, and prophet who refused to separate art from vision. His illuminated manuscripts, blending words and watercolor, became a new language of imagination. His revolt against tyranny, both political and religious, shaped the Romantic movement. And his unshakable belief in the power of inner vision still inspires artists and thinkers across the world. William Blake never sought fame, but he found eternity. His Songs of Innocence and of Experience isn't just a poetry book, it's a spiritual journey, a dialogue between two worlds, the innocent and the fallen. Blake first published Songs of Innocence in 1789, printing and illustrating the poems himself, and that detail has been asked in exam. Later, in 1794, he added new poems and bound them together as Songs of Innocence and of Experience. The full collection was engraved with his own luminous artwork, often depicting mythical figures like Oberon and Puck, another fact directly asked in exam. Now, what does the title mean? For Blake, innocence and experience are not just moods, they are states of human consciousness. Innocence represents the unfallen world, a child's pure perception of life, untouched by corruption. Experience, on the other hand, symbolizes the fallen world, the world of adults, full of deceit, fear, and hypocrisy. That philosophical contrast has been tested in exam many times. The collection as a whole reimagines Milton's Paradise and Fall, another key exam point, but from a romantic perspective. For Blake, childhood isn't about original sin. It's about original vision. And yet, that innocence doesn't last. The fallen adult world, the world of experience, crushes innocence through social injustice, religious control, and moral hypocrisy. Through these poems, Blake takes on big institutions, the church, the state, and the ruling class. He exposes how they exploit the poor, stifle the imagination, and distort divine love into human power. Now, Songs of Innocence, 1789. Blake first issued Songs of Innocence as a self-contained collection of 19 poems, engraved with delicate pastoral artwork, and yes, both the number and the engraved format have been asked in exam. These poems celebrate childhood, purity, and harmony with nature, but Blake's innocence is never blind. Under its gentle tone runs a quiet awareness of danger. For example, in The Little Black Boy and the Chimney Sweeper, he shows how innocent children suffer under oppressive systems. Both poems are exam favorites. The best known poem here is The Lamb, a direct expression of childlike faith. Little lamb, who made thee? It mirrors the tone of the gospel, symbolizing divine gentleness. Other key poems you must recall for exam include Holy Thursday with its vision of charity school children, Infant Joy, and The Divine Image. Each poem portrays simplicity, purity, and moral tenderness, but also hints that this innocence exists in a fragile world that can easily be broken. Next, Songs of Experience, 1794. Now we move to Songs of Experience, published 5 years later, with 26 poems again. Both the year and the count have been asked in exam. Here, Blake reverses the tone. Gone is the pastoral harmony. Instead, we find corruption, control, and despair. The voice is darker, more adult. The most famous piece, of course, is The Tiger, a counterpart to the lamb. It asks, did he who made the lamb make thee? This burning question of creation, duality, and divine symmetry lies at the heart of Blake's vision. Another essential poem is London, where Blake walks through charted streets and sees marks of weakness, marks of woe. It's a direct attack on the moral blindness of industrial society, and yes, it's another exam favorite. Don't forget A Poison Tree, a study in suppressed anger and moral decay, and The Sick Rose, which captures corruption in the language of beauty. Holy Thursday reappears here too, now bitter and ironic, contrasting with its earlier innocent version. In The Little Girl Lost and The Little Girl Found, both of which have been asked in exam, Blake turns social repression into myth, showing a world where love is punished and freedom is feared. And then there's The Human Abstract, his philosophical poem about how even virtues like mercy and pity can create oppression when they're imposed instead of felt. Taken together, the two books form one complete moral vision. They show how human perception evolves from pure innocence to worldly experience. But Blake doesn't stop there. He implies that true wisdom lies beyond both, in a third state of higher imagination, where innocence is regained with understanding. So to sum up, Songs of Innocence and of Experience, engraved and illustrated by Blake himself, asked in exam. Innocence equals the unfallen, childlike state. Experience equals the fallen world of corruption and control. Reinterprets Milton's Paradise Lost in the Fall, asked in exam. Key poems to remember: The Lamb, The Tiger, London, A Poison Tree, Holy Thursday, The Chimney Sweeper, and The Little Black Boy. Blake's dual vision of light and shadow, innocence and experience becomes one of the foundations of romantic poetry. Let's step into the world of William Blake, a visionary poet, painter, and mystic whose songs of innocence and experience capture two sides of human existence: purity and corruption, innocence and experience, heaven and earth. We'll start with one of the gentlest of all poems, The Lamb. It was published in Songs of Innocence in 1789, that's a direct exam fact, and it stands as the spiritual counterpart to The Tiger from Songs of Experience. The poem is built entirely around one question: Little lamb, who made thee? Dost thou know who made thee? A line that's been asked in exam several times. Here, the lamb symbolizes Jesus Christ, who in the Gospel of John is called the Lamb of God, another tested reference. So Blake isn't just writing about a sweet farm animal. He's pointing to Christ as both the creator and the embodiment of innocence. The tone is childlike, full of trust and wonder. It's religion as a child might understand it. Direct, pure, and full of love. But Blake's innocence isn't naive, and that brings us to The Little Black Boy. Also from Songs of Innocence in 1789, it appeared at a time when slavery was still legal and the abolition movement had only just begun. That context itself has been asked in exam. The poem gives voice to a black child who speaks with quiet dignity and faith. He says he was born in the south where the sun burns, but he knows that God's love shines equally on all. He imagines that in heaven he will shade the English boy from the heat of divine love, showing both compassion and equality. Blake uses the sunburned face and black body as symbols of spiritual closeness to God, reversing racist assumptions of his time. So here, innocence becomes moral insight, a child seeing unity where adults see division. Next comes The Chimney Sweeper, one of Blake's most haunting pieces. There are actually two versions, one in Songs of Innocence 1789 and another in Songs of Experience 1794, both asked in exam. In the Innocence version, a young chimney sweep dreams of angels opening black coffins and setting the children free in fields of sunlight. It's a moment of hope. Even amid suffering, divine mercy feels near. But in the Experience version, that hope is gone. A child, abandoned in the snow while his parents pray in church, exposes the hypocrisy of a society that preaches love but ignores its own cruelty. Blake's point is sharp religion without compassion is empty. These poems were also Blake's protest against child labor, where boys as young as 4 were sold to clean chimneys, often dying from soot and disease. That social background has been frequently asked in exam. And finally, we reach Blake's most famous poem, The Tiger, published in 1794 in Songs of Experience. If the lamb shows innocence and divine gentleness, the tiger roars with energy and awe. The poem opens with one of the most recognizable lines in all of English poetry: "Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night." Here, Blake asks, what kind of God could make such a creature so beautiful yet so terrifying? How can the same hands that formed the gentle lamb also forge the fiery tiger? It's a poem of cosmic questioning creation, seen as both divine and dangerous. The tiger stands for experience, for awareness, for the burning force of life itself. Critic Alfred Kazin once said that the tiger expresses triumphant human awareness, and that's perfect. It's not just fear of creation, but wonder at existence itself. Together, these poems reveal Blake's central belief that truth lies not in choosing between innocence and experience, but in reconciling them. Innocence without awareness is fragile. Experience without compassion is cruel. Both must coexist for the human spirit to grow. So when you think of Blake, remember this. The lamb asks, "Who made thee?" Childlike faith. Now, the little black boy preaches equality in the language of innocence. The chimney sweeper exposes social sin through a child's voice. And the tiger challenges creation itself, or meeting fear. That's William Blake, painter of opposites, prophet of harmony. All right, let's look at two of William Blake's most striking poems from Songs of Experience, A Poison Tree and London. Both come from 1794 and both explore the darker, more mature side of human emotion and society. Let's start with A Poison Tree. This short poem is only 4 stanzas long, written in a steady trochaic rhythm, that falling beat that gives it a kind of hypnotic moral rhythm. It first appeared in Songs of Experience, and yes, that publication date 1794 has been asked in exam. The story seems simple at first. The speaker is angry with his friend, he talks it out, and the anger ends. But when he is angry with his foe, he keeps it bottled up and it grows. I told it not, my wrath did grow. That line has been directly tested in exam. What follows is one of Blake's most chilling metaphors. The suppressed anger grows like a tree, watered in fears, night and morning with tears, and finally bears a shining apple, a clear echo of the biblical fruit of temptation. The foe sneaks into the garden at night, eats the apple, and in the morning, the speaker finds him outstretched beneath the tree. Both "and into my garden stole" and "my foe outstretched beneath the tree" are important exam lines. So what's really going on here? Blake is talking about repressed emotion, how hidden wrath, if not expressed, becomes deadly. The poem is about the psychology of anger and vengeance. Blake's warning is clear. When emotions are buried, they turn poisonous. Some scholars link the poem to political repression in post-French Revolution England, where expressing anger could mean punishment or exile. Blake himself believed anger should be expressed, not indulged, but never suppressed. The poison tree, in that sense, reflects not just one person's emotion, but an entire society's spiritual corruption. The imagery of poison and the fall, that apple, also connects the speaker to figures like Jehovah, Urizen, or even Satan in Blake's mythic universe. The poem suggests that the act of poisoning another soul mirrors the destruction of trust, love, and individuality in a fallen world. It's short, but it cuts deep. Now let's turn to London. This poem, also from Songs of Experience in 1794, is Blake's most direct social critique. It doesn't have a matching counterpart in Songs of Innocence, which already tells us something. There's nothing innocent left about this London. Here, Blake writes as a resident, not as an outsider. He walks through each chartered street and sees marks of weakness, marks of woe on every face. The word chartered, meaning officially controlled, suggests that even the streets and the Thames are owned, regulated, and stripped of freedom. The whole city has become a prison. The poem belongs to Blake's idea of two contrary states of the human soul, innocence versus experience, and London clearly embodies the latter. The themes are grim: industrial exploitation, child labor, prostitution, poverty, and moral decay. Blake had once loved London, seeing it as a center of energy and creativity. But after the French Revolution, as England grew more oppressive with new laws and censorship, he saw the city as a symbol of spiritual death. Every sound in the poem, the chimney sweeper's cry, the soldier's sigh, the harlot's curse, adds to the sense of corruption. There's even a hidden acrostic in the 3rd stanza spelling the word "here," foreshadowed by the word "here" at the end of the 2nd stanza, a subtle sign that Blake is literally asking us to listen to society's pain. So if A Poison Tree is about inner repression, the poison growing within London is about outer repression, a society poisoned by power and control. Both poems expose the same disease, one personal, the other political. And here's something fun to remember for exam comparison questions. London by Samuel Johnson, a satire in heroic couplets modelled on Juvenal. London by William Blake, a social protest poem from Songs of Experience. London 1802 by Wordsworth, an apostrophe to Milton, lamenting England's moral decline. And London as a novel by Edward Rutherford, which spans 2000 years of the city's history. So the same city becomes a mirror for every generation's anxieties. To sum up, a poison tree shows how anger, when hidden, becomes deadly. London shows how society, when corrupt, becomes inhuman. Both are short, simple, and unforgettable, and together they capture exactly why William Blake is called the prophet of the human soul.